Hello friends, it's been a while since my last video, again. I've just had a lot on my plate at the beginning of the year, and when things normalized again, I didn't really know how to go back into either filming something or just making videos. Except for the short ones, there were a couple of those. Let's just say I've got a bit of a backlog of screen recordings and I need to get a move on. I've had a question of sorts floating around my brain for a couple of days, and I figured what better way to muse about it than make a video. The topic, as you may have deduced from the video title and thumbnail, is my quest for an art style and my trouble with labels. The question of what is my art style, or just a statement, I need to develop my art style, is likely one most beginner artists wrestle with, especially when exposed to so much art online, and I was no different at the time. Every artist around me seemed to have this significant style in their art, in a way that made their art instantly recognizable as theirs to anybody looking at it. Be that the way they handle figures and shapes, use brushes, their lighting and shading, the textures, etc. It's like handwriting, it belongs to them. Back then, baby artist me looked at her own art and wanted to develop a style for it. What I didn't know at the time, or at least something that I didn't want to know at the time, is that style comes from experience. Both drawing experience, but also lived experience. What we learn to like or dislike, and how we perceive our surroundings translates into our art. It gives it meaning and informs our choices while we draw, paint, sculpt, write, play music, and so on. You know the drill. So let me tell you a bit about my journey so far. Pretty early on, I noticed that my interest was mostly in telling stories in form of comics. I had what I perceived to be a great art style. After all, I drew these eyes in a very specific way. I also had the loose idea of a story, so what could go wrong if I just jumped into it? Right, nothing at all. Because really, I was a teenager, there were no stakes, and we all have to test our notions once in a while just to see if this might be something we really want to do, or if it's just something that we like the idea of doing. There wasn't anything world-changing writing on drawing comic pages and potentially finding. It wasn't something I wanted to do. In fact, it turned out that it was something that I wanted to do. I just wasn't quite ready yet. I was lacking experience both in telling a story and also how I should draw it. It didn't stop me from finishing a comic at the age of 14, but it wasn't a good comic. A lot of what is in that comic can be directly traced back to The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which still is a huge inspiration, don't get me wrong, but at the time I didn't have the exposure I've had the pleasure of having since. So I heavily drew from what I knew, and what I knew was Zelda: Ocarina of Time. After that project, what followed were a number of started and not gone far projects, all of them drawing from a narrow pool of other artists that were around me, and me wanting to be just like them. Again, I was a teenager. I had high aspirations, but I was young. My horizon broadened specifically when I broke out of the German internet bubble into more international waters. Those were the DeviantArt days. I almost immediately flocked to the myriads of animal comics on DeviantArt, one of the most well-known among them being Black Blood Alliance. The quality of that comic, even looking back at it with today's eyes, is phenomenal. Quite something to aspire to, especially for teenage me. It certainly renewed my interest in comics, and a new comic story was born very quickly. A runaway prince turned wolf by an evil wizard. Found by a she-wolf, he was reluctantly accepted into the pack, while his cousin was out looking for him. I'm talking, of course, about Akami no Densetsu. Yes, the cringe. The cringe. I didn't draw the opening pages just once, but twice, after having what I referred to a jump in style. Really, it was skill, but I was still calling it style, mostly. Here's something you need to know about younger me. I almost exclusively drew animals at the time, or floating heads of people. There were a myriad of eyes drawn into the corner of my school supplies too, but I wasn't very good with humans. Like, at all. Even younger me knew this. And if you want a prince-turned-wolf story set in vaguely medieval times, you don't just have to draw humans and vaguely medieval backgrounds, but also humans on horses, man-made objects in the scene. And of course, you have to do that a lot. So I gave up quickly, because I didn't have a style for these things. I didn't know how to draw that, and I referred to that as, I don't know what style to put that in, but really, I just didn't know how to do it. It was a skill issue, not a style issue. And for the longest time after, my art was meandering and not going anywhere. After finding comics on DeviantArt, the next logical step was finding comics on their own websites. My first intro to those was Earth Song by Crystal Yates, and from the comics she read and linked on her website, I found hundreds more and couldn't read them fast enough. That was it. I wanted to make a webcomic of my own. This time, however, I took more time to prepare. More time to write and plan the story, but also more time to go into character designs and what I wanted the overall look of the comic to be. I even made test pages, goddammit! Remember that runaway prince-turned-wolf story from earlier? Well, it still had a place in my heart and brain, and I decided to give it another go. Okami no Densetsu walked Zozo's journey could run, and this time with more success, because I even finished this comic after 7 years. Copies of that comic are also available in my store, just saying. It was very changed from those first couple of concepts from years prior, but I stuck with it through highs and lows. Just comparing the first couple of pages with later ones shows a lot of growth. If there was one thing I learned from drawing this comic, it's that consistently working on a project and wanting it to look good makes you practice drawing like nothing else. When I started, I wasn't half bad with wolves, but what are birds and how do they work? Humans definitely needed physical therapy as stiff as they looked when I drew them. Backgrounds were slog, whether they depicted indoor settings or outdoor, and I learned tons from drawing this comic because I was challenged at every turn, and my style grew with it. It was a slow creep at first. I didn't notice it much over the years, but when you draw the same thing over and over again, you get more secure in what you put on the page and you aren't afraid of drawing new subjects anymore. I learned how to study reality in order to translate that into lines, color, and lighting. As I said earlier, style comes from experience. Mileage matters, but it also matters how closely you look at your own environment and how you perceive it, because that informs style. The title of the segment may say post-comic days, as if I never draw comics again after, but that's not quite true. I took a long break from that though. I was pretty burned out from my sprint to the finish line with Soul's Journey and briefly couldn't even draw, cause holding a pencil or stylus with the intention of drawing made me shake all over. Once that scare was over, I fled into drawing pretty animal pictures. I explored methods of inking, shading that I didn't feel fit in the comic, and just never allowed myself to explore them, fearing that if I found greener pastures, I'd stop the comic I posted to the Song of Crickets. Yes, I intentionally held myself back at that point in order to preserve the style of the story that seemingly nobody read anymore. Make that make sense? It is what it is. But when the comic was finished, I was free of those self-imposed restraints and could explore what else was out there. Illustrations were one-offs and I didn't need to restrain myself. Sure, there were a couple of series that I wanted to make, but even then, my limit was 3 or 4 pictures. The reason? I got bored with working in one style. I began jumping into different mediums, tried so many things and improved a lot in that time, but seemingly no cohesive style. And that is also when the social media trap really closed around me. Social media is dictated by algorithms. In very simplified terms, engagement tells the algorithm what is popular, and then the algorithm pushes it to more people. When you look at the feed of popular artists, their pictures look very style coherent. People liked a couple of their pieces and then found more in that style waiting, ready to be consumed. There are indeed artists out there that seemingly don't get bored, drawing in the same constricting style day in, day out, and that amazes me, and I tried doing that myself. I didn't get very far, because I got bored again. I needed more variation in what I drew and how I drew it. I wanted to draw everything and however I liked drawing in that moment. I wanted to be free in my art, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with drawing in the same stylized way over and over again, if that is what gives you joy. Different strokes for different folks, right? I just knew I wanted to be versatile and also use those versatile art muscles. The downside? I lost the style again. I couldn't easily label my art, couldn't easily describe it. As for medium, I draw mostly digitally to this day. But I also enjoy painting with watercolors, gouache, and acrylics. So am I really a digital artist only? Then maybe subject matter. I love drawing animals, but most of my current characters are humans, so I draw a lot of humans too. Am I really an animal artist then? A bit broader perhaps. Fantasy. I draw fantasy art, only sometimes it's just pretty animal pictures or landscapes. Likely not a fantasy artist through and through. A comic artist? I'm only now just getting back into comics. Was I one in between that and finishing my previous one? Going off vibes might be a way to go. However, let me know how these two images go together in terms of vibes. I could curate my social media to only reflect one type of art, but then there might be weeks or even months in between posts, because I jump between different mediums and subjects so much I don't necessarily come back to that posted kind of style anytime soon. I don't want to restrict myself again. That was one of the reasons I eventually retreated from social media. And hey, if you want to rant about social media from me, let me know in the comments. I'm game. In the end, I can see that my drawings and paintings do have a certain style to them, but I haven't really found a label or a combination of labels that really fits comfortably for my entire body of work. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that feel similarly about their own art. Versatility is a good thing, and especially when wanting to tell stories, there's a comfort in knowing, hey, I can draw this, or at least hey, I can learn to draw this. It's not that different from XYZ, even though that makes it difficult to describe my body of work as a whole. And I think that is a result from A, getting bored doing the same kind of work over and over again, B, wearing all these hats when I was a webcomic artist. My fellow webcomic artists know what I'm talking about. And C, the never-ending search for a succinct description of what makes my art my art. While I haven't quite finished that mission younger me set out to accomplish, creating art in a certain style, I do think younger me would be proud to know she'd grow into the artist role as such. Over the years, I've definitely found, or rather developed my style too, and it wasn't even something I was doing consciously most of the time, to be honest. Right now, looking back, there are definitely some steps I did take though, even if I have trouble putting it into words. Words, my friend, are the trouble. Art is the solution. In any case, as mentioned and obviously showing in the background, I am tentatively returning to working on comics. I've hit a snag with my illustrated novel and fled myself into other projects. The project is connected, but set way before the events in the novel. If you'd like to read the pages as I finish them, I am posting them over on Ko-fi for members for the time being. They will eventually be free to read. I just want to have a bit of a buffer going before I set anything in stone. Other than that, Ko-fi members also get early access and some behind-the-scenes content, so if you would like to sign up, here's the link, also down in the description. And if you've seen the shorts I've posted recently, you might also already know that I have a mail club over on Ko-fi, for which members will get monthly A5 prints and 3 to 4 stickers. Everything is sent out quarterly. This month's theme is Eerily Dearily. Again, there is a short on that. Check that one out. And last but not least, I've not talked about it a whole bunch, but my shop is currently open. You can get print versions of my comics, prints, stickers, wooden pins, and original art there. Just be advised, I'll need to close the shop on the 9th of August, just for a couple of weeks due to some upcoming events, and then reopening afterwards is planned for early October. And hey, if you're a Ko-fi member, you also get a discount for the shop. And that is all I've got to say today. To help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please like, comment, and/or subscribe. That helps me a lot. Take care, and bye!